Counseling center directors are being pitched AI documentation tools at a rate that has increased significantly in the past 2 years. And many of those tools are genuinely capable. They transcribe accurately. They generate readable note drafts. They're easy to demo. So the question is not whether AI documentation tools work in isolation. The question is whether or not they work inside your operation. Because there are two fundamentally different architectures for how AI documentation can be delivered to a counseling center. The first is an add-on AI Scribe, a separate tool that sits outside your EHR and layers AI documentation on top of your existing system. The second is a built-in AI Scribe, one that is built directly into the EHR itself, integrated with your templates, your workflows, your supervision structure, and your data. These are not two versions of the same thing. They produce different operational outcomes, and understanding the difference is one of the more important technology decisions a counseling center will make in the next few years. So let's get specific. Let's walk through 5 dimensions where these two architectures produce meaningfully different outcomes. The first step is template integration. An add-on AI Scribe generates a note draft, typically as a block of text or a loosely structured summary, that the clinician then copies, pastes, or manually maps into the EHR note template. That transfer step sounds minor, but it is not. It introduces manual handling into a process that was supposed to reduce manual handling. The AI draft and the EHR template are two separate objects. The clinician is the bridge between them, every time, for every note. A built-in AI Scribe generates its output directly inside the template. The presenting concern field is populated. The interventions field is populated. The plan field is populated. The clinician finds a structured draft already mapped to their documentation standard, not a paragraph they need to reformat and distribute across fields themselves. The second dimension is workflow continuity. With an add-on tool, the clinician is working across two systems. They open the AI tool, conduct or conclude the session, retrieve the draft, then switch to the EHR to complete the note. That context switching adds friction. It also adds another login, another interface, and another vendor relationship to manage. With a built-in Scribe, there's one system. The session ends, and the draft is waiting. There's no transfer, no switching, no second platform. The workflow is continuous. Third is data residency, and this one matters for compliance. An add-on AI Scribe processes audio or transcript data in a separate environment. That means session content, protected health information, is being handled outside your EHR by a third-party system under a separate data agreement. For university counseling centers operating under HIPAA, FERPA, and institutional data governance requirements, that is not a trivial concern. It requires careful vendor review, BAA documentation, and ongoing oversight of a second data environment. With a built-in Scribe, session data stays within the EHR environment. One system, one data agreement, one compliance posture. Fourth is supervision and compliance workflow. In a training environment, every note requires a review and co-signature process. With an add-on tool, the AI-generated draft may arrive in the EHR's free text without any structured connection to the supervision queue. The supervisor receives something that looks different from a standard note and may need to do additional formatting review before they can assess clinical content. With a built-in Scribe, the draft arrives in the same structured format the supervisor already reviews. It moves through the same co-signature workflow. Nothing about the supervision process changes. It just starts with a more consistently structured first draft. And fifth, as we covered in the previous episode, is downstream document support. An add-on Scribe produces notes. What it produces does not automatically connect to the broader clinical record in a structured way. The data lives in text fields that are not designed to feed downstream document generation. A built-in Scribe writes structured data directly into the EHR's data architecture. That means the same structured information that powers the progress note can also power a transfer summary, an accommodation letter, a referral document. The leverage compounds across the entire documentation operation, not just the progress note queue. None of this means add-on tools have no value. In a center without a modern EHR, an add-on tool may be the only practical option available. But centers evaluating AI documentation tools should be clear-eyed about what they are actually buying and what operational costs the add-on architecture carries over time. The demo looks similar. The daily workflow experience is not. Let me show you what the built-in architecture looks like in practice. Here's the note template a clinician sees after a session. You can see the fields are already populated, not with a block of text that needs to be reformatted, but with structured content mapped to each section. Presenting concern, populated from what the client brought into the session. Interventions populated from what the clinician did. And plan drafted based on what was discussed. The clinician reads through this field by field. They refine the language, add clinical nuance where needed, and remove anything that doesn't belong on the record. Then they sign. The entire review process takes 2 to 3 minutes, and critically, there was no copy-paste, no manual transfer, no second platform. The friction in the add-on workflow is not dramatic. No single step is insurmountable, but it compounds across a full caseload, across an entire clinical staff, across an academic year. Centers that have moved from add-on tools to built-in scribes consistently report that the workflow simplification is as valuable as the AI capability itself. The time savings are real, but so is the reduction in friction, context switching, and administrative overhead that accumulates around managing 2 systems. There is also a practical consideration around staff adoption. Clinicians adopt tools that are easy and unobtrusive. A tool that requires switching platforms and manually reformatting output adds steps to a workflow that was supposed to remove them. Adoption suffers. The technology underperforms, not because it is incapable, but because the integration is incomplete. Things worth taking with you. First, evaluate architecture, not just capability. Most AI documentation tools can produce a readable note draft. The differentiating question is how that draft arrives in your workflow and what happens to it next. Ask vendors specifically, where does the AI output land and how does it connect to your templates and supervision structure? Second, hidden friction has a real cost. Copy-paste steps, platform switching, and manual reformatting adds up across a clinical staff. The operational cost of a poorly integrated tool is not always visible in a demo. It becomes visible in adoption rates and after-hours work. Third, compliance and data governance are not afterthoughts. If session audio or transcript data is leaving your EHR environment, understand exactly where it goes, how it's stored, and what agreements govern it. That is a legitimate due diligence question for any AI documentation vendor. And fourth, think beyond the progress note. The full value of a built-in AI scribe is realized across the entire documentation operation: notes, letters, summaries, referrals. An add-on tool that only touches the progress note captures a fraction of that value. If you want to see what a fully built-in AI documentation workflow looks like inside a system built for counseling centers, there's a link below to connect with our team.